You know, the World Cup has taken up much of the spotlight these past few weeks, so I wanted to take time to revisit a major court ruling you may have missed in Missouri. A Jackson County judge recently struck down many of the state's laws restricting abortion access, finding them at odds with a constitutional amendment approved by voters 2 years ago protecting abortion rights. Those laws, still on the books, limited how doctors could give abortions and even added rules like a 72-hour waiting period before someone could have the procedure. This new ruling paved the way for patients to receive medication abortions for the first time in 8 years. Missouri's Attorney General called it radical and plans to appeal. I asked her earlier this year during the trial if there was a compromise she'd entertain. Is there some sort of middle ground here?
Well, there were 179 laws on the books. So are they all, is one absolutely as good as another? Probably not. I mean, that's true of any laws. That's why, you know, the litigation's important. Let's figure out what the law is. We want to do everything that we can within the law to protect unborn children and their mothers.
Aside from the challenge, A.G. Hanaway is leading a push to have the drug used for abortions, mifepristone, to be classified as a water contaminant by the EPA to try and create a crackdown that way. Governor Mike Kehoe called the Jackson County judge's ruling disappointing and dangerous, claiming that it puts the safety of Missouri women in jeopardy. And remember, this all sets the stage for the next big discussion on abortion, Amendment 3. Pushed by the Republican-led General Assembly to re-ban abortions in most cases statewide. It's coming up in November. A yes vote this time would reverse protections voters enshrined in the state constitution 2 years ago. So there are a lot of moving parts here. Let's get to the heart of the matter with Emily Wales, President and CEO of Planned Parenthood Great Plains. Welcome back. Thanks for being here again. A lot to talk about. I wanted to spend some time on this, though. This was a major decision. How is it affecting how Planned Parenthood does business now?
It's had an immediate impact for patients. So since 2018, we've been unable to provide medication abortion to Missourians in their home state. And as of last week, we've been able to restore that care and have now served patients in Columbia, Kansas City, St. Louis, and soon we'll restore care at Gladstone.
Do you have any numbers or just a ballpark? I mean, people, this is, as you said, a service that hasn't really been able to get off the ground here in Missouri.
That's right. And we've known generally what the demand is because we see so many Missourians coming to Kansas or going to Illinois. Overnight, we filled appointments in Kansas City and Columbia. When we posted those appointments, what we saw was Missourians choosing to stay close to home rather than travel across state lines, or in some cases foregoing care altogether. And we often see patients who have anxiety about having a procedure or who have been victims of sexual violence who strongly prefer medication abortion. For those patients, your options were either forego care and move forward with a pregnancy that wasn't wanted or that potentially posed hazards to your health, or to try to flee the state and get out even though you had a constitutional right to that care in your home state.
Now, how is the process? They reach out to you and they can get a mail-in prescription, or how does that work?
So what happens is you still come into our clinics like any other type of care. You come in, you get an ultrasound, you meet with a provider and our team, you receive education about the process, and we had the opportunity to go in detail during the trial in January with the judge about what that care looks like and how much information is provided to patients. And now patients can actually receive that care closer to home.
Mifepristone aside, what do you say to people and leaders now who are claiming abortion providers won't be held to standards and implying danger in some cases, I think?
I think it's disingenuous when you hear leaders say that, especially from someone like Attorney General Catherine Hanaway, who had the opportunity with her team on site during 2 weeks of trial to hear just how safe our protocols are and how commonly used medication abortion has been for decades at this point. What we wanted and what we told the judge at trial was to be treated like any other type of health care. Abortion providers are not asking for special protections, even though constitutionally Missourians have a right to abortion now in the state constitution, but we want to be regulated like other healthcare providers, like other private doctors' offices, and that's what we are today.
Looking ahead to November, Amendment 3, which would repeal abortion rights, is named the same as last time, except that a yes vote means the exact opposite. What sort of confusion does that breed, and how do you work on messaging ahead of November?
Well, it's certainly no mistake, and I think it's a cynical move on the part of the legislature to name it the exact same thing as the last Amendment 3. The good news is Missourians are smart, certainly smarter than the legislature thinks they are, and they understand that they can safely access abortion right now for the first time in years, both types of care. And they know that Amendment 3 was named that way to mislead them. The legislature has purposely undermined the will of the people, and we're going to make sure that Missourians know across the state what's on the ballot, what the new Amendment 3 is, and that they don't have to roll back their own rights.
I want to quickly mention Kansas because coming up before November, coming up next month, is the amendment that would potentially change how the Supreme Court is appointed, or in this case, they would be elected if this passes. What are the implications for reproductive rights in Kansas?
Potentially huge. When it comes to abortion access, not only in Kansas, but across the region, Kansas has become a place where people can come from Texas, from Oklahoma, from Arkansas, and access care that keeps them safe and healthy that they can't get in their home states. The vote in August is actually, there's a common thread for what we're seeing in Missouri. Again, the Kansas legislature is attempting to ignore the will of the people. They had the opportunity to hear from Kansans in 2022 who said, we want the right to abortion, we want to protect our own rights, and we don't want the government to interfere with our health care. Attorney General Kobach has said out loud the quiet part, which is they attempted to get Kansans to roll back their rights, to give up the right to abortion in 22. That didn't work. And so now they want to change the makeup of the state Supreme Court in order to get them to interpret the Constitution in a different way and to ultimately ban abortion.
We'll be talking about it a lot ahead of Election Day. Emily Osa, Planned Parenthood, thank you so much. Count on KMBC 9 News and Heart of the Matter as we watch the impact of this most recent ruling and look ahead to those major issues at the polls affecting reproductive rights. Keep you posted on air and online at KMBC.com.